Today I'm challenging myself to create a stunning card using minimal supplies and Crayola watercolors. Many people think that you have to have professional watercolors to create a professional look, which is simply just not true. With a few simple tips, tricks, and techniques that I'm going to share with you today, you're going to be able to create a stunning card using just budget-friendly supplies. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off by using the Monkeying Around stamp set from My Favorite Things and our Crayola Watercolors. I got the Crayola Watercolors that were the 16 set. I could not find my original 8 set to begin with, but we're going to go ahead and stamp out our image on some Canson XL watercolor paper. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is my favorite ink for watercoloring. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that off, and I'm going to actually stamp it out twice because I am stamping on watercolor cardstock. Again, that's just Canson XL watercolor paper cut down to size. Now, there is a difference between the 16 set that I got and my regular Crayola watercolors. This 16 set is the washable kind. I do not recommend to get the washable kind, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. But I did get a stunning look just by doing that. All right, so to start off with the card, I have I'm using Altenews watercolor brushes. I'll have everything listed in the visual supply list. But I have moistened my palette first with a water bottle, and I'm picking up the color and putting it where I want it to be the darkest. I'm taking my brush and dipping it into my water cup and getting a thirsty brush like we have talked about many times and pulling that color out to where I want it to be lighter. And then I can add a little bit more color than what you think. So I'm going to come in now and I'm going to start on my little monkeys. I'm using just the brown that's in the set. I'm not adding any more watercolors to this. I'm using just the watercolors that is in this Crayola set. So we're going to take and put our color in the darkest area and pull it out to the lightest area. I do recommend that you dry your card completely in between applications, because you're going to have to do at least 2 applications of color to get a nice saturated card. The Crayola watercolors have a good saturation, but they're not the super best. They are student grade or elementary grade. But that really doesn't matter because you can achieve a good look with the student grade. Now you can see I'm mixing colors right there to create a pink. I mixed one of the reds in the set with the white and created my own pink. You can totally do that with these colors. All right, so this is why I would say if you can find the original watercolors from Crayola, get those instead of the washable. The washable watercolors had a gel-like consistency, which is not like your typical watercolors. I think it's whatever they put in to make it washable, which I don't understand why you'd have to make anything washable for watercolors because they clean up with water. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So again, if you can get the original watercolors, go for those. If not, you can still, as you can see as we're working, you can still create a beautiful card with what you can get. I think I picked these up at Walmart for like $3 at most. I probably should have checked Amazon first, but this is when I was checking stuff for Amazon or Walmart to see what kind of cards making supplies I could find. All right, so you can see I mixed up a lighter brown color for the feet and the face. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those in. And then I'm picking up the purple. This is like a darker purple shade. So I'm going to put that in the darkest area of my watercolor. And I'm going to pull that out with my lightest color. And I will talk to you more about the whole gel consistency thing later on in this video. So stick around and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our second layer of our little cake with all of our little banana toppings on it. So I'm going to pull that color out. I'd have to go back to the palette and add a few more colors. So I did notice that with using these watercolors, I had to go back to the palette a couple times to get more pigment, which is typical for a student grade watercolor. So don't let that fool you. You could kind of see there that gel consistency that I was talking about if you really look. And you can tell on the intensity of the colors when I'm pulling this red violet out. It has a very different sheen. Like whatever chemical they used in here affects the watercolors a little bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're still going to use these and create a beautiful card. So I went ahead and pulled out that that red-violet color at the bottom. Now I'm going to take a yellow and start coloring my bananas. I chose the lightest yellow first. I do suggest you probably should swatch these out to see what colors you got, because you can see that one that looks very orange is actually a darker yellow. So, and this green that I'm playing with right now was actually very yellowy. It did not look green at all. Like you can see right there, it's very green. I mean, very yellow when I put it on. So I had to switch to the regular green to get a greenish look on my bananas. Because, you know, we wanted some green bananas too, because, you know, they're not always yellow. You can get green ones in the store, which is what my husband prefers. Because they stay around the house a little long. Not that banana stays around our house very long, because we like some bananas. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and alternate in between the bananas. I'm going to do some with that darker yellow, some with the lighter yellow. And I'm just alternating in between. These were very easy to do. I just had to put down a little color and pull it out. And you see me picking up the paper towel over there and dotting it on my paper. I kept dropping water droplets on my cardstock, and I didn't want that on there. Every time I would clean off my brush, I'd drop water on it. I don't know. I was having a bad watercolor day, obviously. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and color the rest of those, and I'm going to pull those out. And then we're going to start to work on our other little monkey in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of green into that paint while it's wet. This is called wet into wet. Painting, it's when you take your canvas is wet and you go ahead and drop in more pigment of a different color and just let it do its work and let it bleed together. So that's that technique. And I've been painting wet into dry. But now we're going to go ahead and mix up a different color for our other little monkey over here. And I started out by using the blue and the brown, and blue and brown makes black. So I don't know what I was really thinking. I was just trying to gray down the brown a little bit that was there. So I come back in and added some more brown, and then I added some yellow to balance that out, and that gave me a better, darker brown shade. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. I put it in the darkest area, as we have been doing. This is my typical watercolor technique that I've shared with y'all many, many times. So we're going to put it where we want it to be the darkest, and we're going to pull that color out, just like so. So we're going to go ahead and do that little monkey. He's so cute. These monkeys I love this set, and I was super happy to get it. All right, we're going to go back to our little face color. And I did drop in some pink into this face while the watercolor was wet, so that it would give me a very subtle blush on his cheeks. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that right now, right there on that one, that little monkey. And you can see I could blend it out super easy. I am coming back now and adding another layer of the browns onto my monkeys. You can see how this is different than my typical watercolors, how it moves around slightly different. That's the only thing I had heard that this was a thing with the washable watercolors, but I didn't know for sure. So this was all they had at the Walmart I was at. So I had picked those up, and I've had these videos ready to go for I've had this watercolor set for several months and had never got around to do our video. So I did plan out this video and started doing it for y'all, because I wanted y'all to be able to have good knowledge. Now, in between what you're seeing me do now and the last section we did, I did dry this in between each layer, and I just did that off camera so that I could go back in and add that second layer of color. And you are going to want to do that to your images, because again, these colors are not as saturated as some of the others. So you're going to want to do that. Now I'm going to work on the background, and I'm just adding some of the paint in here. I am going to end up switching brushes. I did find, in case you're wondering, if you can get a good synthetic brush that is more of a natural hair feeling, these watercolors do seem to work better with that instead of the Teflon brushes that I'm using right now. The alternate brushes are Teflon. They are they're good brushes, but like the Princeton Heritage would be a good one choice, or Lindsay Wagner, I think is her name, the Frugal Crafter. She has a set of brushes that worked really well for this. And that's actually the brush that I ended up grabbing and using. It was a number 10. So, but you can see me dropping in color and pulling it out. Just like that. Now, this is what I did notice in that gel consistency I was talking about. Like when you would wet the color and move it around, it was a gel looking like, looked like gel. That's what it really looked like. So I think that whatever chemical they have put into these watercolors has done that, and it does affect how, it doesn't affect how you put it down. It doesn't affect anything else, but it will affect some of the other techniques that we normally use on our cards. All right, I'm softening out that edge. We'll get more to that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add a second layer. I must have had water on the brush. I'm going to add some green under our little monkey's feet. And I'm going to change brushes in just a minute. I can't remember when that is. But we're going to change brushes. And I really liked how the Lindsay Wagner brushes worked with the Crayolas. It was super easy made it a lot more easier to do. Let me rephrase that. That's what it did. I'm going to add a little bit more darker brown to my other monkey on this side. And pull that out. Now, you know, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I am a turner. So I turn the paper so that I can get a better look at it. Now, this is the Lindsay Wagner brush that I was talking about. You can see that it did much better job than the Ultra New brushes by grabbing the pigment and having that heavier pigment load. And it helped me. It pulled out much easier with this brush. I don't know what it was. And I know her brushes are synthetic because she is a very big on not promoting natural hair brushes with animal hair. So I know her brushes are synthetic. I think they're a synthetic swirl blend, but don't hold me to that. I'm not really 100%. But you can see right there where I'm adding that next layer, how smoothly it just went on with ease. So if I went to do this card over again, I would pull out her brushes that I have the whole set of and use those instead of the Ultra New brushes. So I do think you're going to want to check your brushes and just play with them to see how they work with the watercolors. Because again, these brushes work much better than my Teflon or Ultra New brushes. So there's that. All right, I'm going to finish painting that, and I'm going to dry that off the screen. Well, I'm going to dry it a little bit on screen for y'all. And then I've finished the rest of it off screen. I'm going to place it back into my Misty, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment now. I didn't have a problem stamping the sentiment. I'm going to pick out one here. Actually, we're going to pick out two. We're going to do one underneath the little monkey's feet, and we're going to add a sentiment to the little banner here. I wanted to see if you would have any problems, since it had that gel consistency of the washable Crayolas, if there was a problem with going back to restamp anything, and there was not. You could easily restamp on that watercolor without any problems. So I did stamp it twice, and I did dry that. I did cut that down off screen. And I'm going to add this to a black mat that I have cut just slightly larger than my panel. And then I'm going to take and add this to a yellow card base. So I've got just some yellow cardstock that I had in my stash and already pre-made card base. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this down. I am seeing that I did get that a little off center now. So I'll try to move it over, but I do not. All right, I'm going to add some enamel dots that were in my stash that I'm trying to get rid of. And this is where the other difference is. I pulled out my Sakura Bold number 10 gel pen. This watercolor would not take the white gel pen at all. It would not take the black gel pen. I don't know what it was. They would not let these pens work, but it's okay because I was able to get some highlights on there. Here's a look at the card, and here's a closer look at the card. If you like this video, you're probably going to like this video coming up next. Bye, guys. Love you. Stay crafty.